everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on volume 34, deluxe volume 12 of Berserk. It's starting to get down to the wire, and I'm not gonna lie, I've been wanting to read ahead because I'm getting rather impatient. I'm getting rather impatient. I'm like, all right, Miura, I want to see things start to come together. And I know, I want to say, I feel for all of you that read this in real time. Like, I feel like we've been on this arc for a decade. And I am sure, based on how often Miura updated and how often he drew his chapters, that you all were watching, you've been reading the Millennium Falcon arc for probably almost 10 years at this point. How you all did that, I feel like maybe you just all had other things to do in your lives, and so you just read your chapter Berserk and then moved on, and we're like, well, we'll come back to it whenever we can. But for me, reading this week to week, I'm like, all right, I'm all right, Miura, what we doing? So, and it seems like with this volume, we're going to come to a head. At least Ganishka has taken on his final form, and we're going to dive into what that entails. But a couple things before we start. One, there was with last week as well, but also I didn't mention it last week. There is a link to a survey down in the description. I want to do a video essay about Berserk and kind of overall thoughts with Miura's content, because we are going to get into Mori's content, but I know that Mori's only got like one volume out right now that we can read. So I do want to talk about Miura's content in a video essay and my experience reading Berserk and overall like thoughts going back through the series. But there is a survey that I want to get some data from to kind of pull from. So if you can, please fill out the survey down below. It should take you like 5 minutes. I'd really appreciate that. Yay. And I'm going to keep collecting. I'm probably going to keep putting that link to that survey in the description, in the comment section up until I'm caught up, just so I can get as much data as I can. So I really appreciate y'all helping me gather that, because I'm really curious with the results of that data. So with that being said, I had some comments, and then I went back through, I was going to go back through the entirety of Berserk, but that seemed rather daunting, and I want to do that again when I catch up. But instead, at the behest of Damage 3245, they were like, maybe you should go back through like volumes 22 through now if you're going to recap. And I was like, yeah. So I actually went back to volume 19, because that's where the deluxe volume started, deluxe volume 7, which feels like an eon ago. But we're going to talk about that here in just a second, because I made some notes. John Smoke, 1785, noted that the Tree of Life in Kabbalah is actually the brand symbol that Guts and them have, is kind of derived from that or related to that. And I was like, that's pretty cool. That's nice. Moomin talks about Guts telling dad jokes back in volume 30. And I was like, yes, if anything, the best thing about this entire series is Guts' journey, which he's a colossal protagonist. That should surprise no one. But Guts' journey throughout this entire series is probably my favorite part. It's probably the best thing, with the exception of, we'll talk about volume 23 when I went back and reread that and was like, grumble through that. But for the most part, 95% of Guts' journey I've been totally on board for, and I've really, really enjoyed it. And these last couple volumes, it almost feels like, which I'm sure is the case, Miura started this in 1990, and it went up through 30, well, yeah, nearly 30 years worth of content. But it kind of is like Guts grows up along with Miura. And so Miura cracking dad jokes and, being like this with Shirk and being kind of like a father figure to Shirk. Yeah, that feels like Miura kind of projecting, right? Just a wee bit. Feels like that. And I do like, we'll talk about the other volumes and everything, but I do like the idea of Guts and Miura kind of aging at the same time. I think that's really neat. Alex Cornejo, and this is going to kind of get us into talking about the review of the volumes. Alex Cornejo talked about Griffith is portrayed the same as the start of the story. Pretty much. A beautiful figure, a distant beacon of the Band of the Hawk to marvel at, their lives revolving around him. And while he does the bare minimum to humor them, which we talked back in the anime, he's just kind of like, yeah. Back then, all that made him seem gallant and mysterious, but now we have this dread it's dread-inducing because we know better. people fall for him because he's handsome and charismatic. And yeah, and I would argue that Griffith was way more charismatic and way more interesting back in the Golden Age because of his interactions with other characters. Even though he was, you know, humoring them and he was keeping a lot of them at a distance, especially I think back to when he was injured after Zod's battle and all the dignitaries were around him and he was playing politics and the Band of the Hawk, who are supposed to be his friends, are kind of kept at a distance. That's when it was most obvious. But I still feel like there was a lot of his personality where he had had conversations with Guts and Casca primarily that led his character to be far more interesting. Now, since he's like, I don't have these feelings towards Guts and Casca anymore, he's just kind of bland. And I'm just like, oh, this is all you were. Okay, let's talk about that. I went back through and read the volumes. I want to kind of go over my notes. I went back and started volume 19. Which was around the high point of the conviction arc. And I will say, I do like a lot about these last couple arcs. I'm so glad, like volume 28 on have been some of my favorites since the Golden Age, which is good. Going back to volume 19, I was like, volume 17 through 23 were very frustrating for me. And that's a large chunk of Berserk to be very frustrating. But I guess my big thing with, again, I've flogged Mr. Waffles to death about Casca, but I'm sorry, volumes 19 through 21, she just stands there. She does nothing except ooh, and be surrounded by people trying to save her. I'm like, granted, that does give us Guts saving Casca, which is nice. I did want to make note, Azon, the last time we see Azon, before he shows up, like around volume 30, the last time we see Azon and see his face is around volume 20 when Azon decides to take responsibility and not run away like Serpico and Farnace do. Now, Serpico and Farnace have reasons because they don't want to go back to the Holy See and they don't want to go back to her family. Makes sense. But Azon decides not to run away and take responsibility. And that's the last time we see him before he returns. And again, we still don't know. He's got that damn helmet on and he won't take it off. And I'm like, is he an apostle? Is he got like a pseudo-apostle? Did he make a deal? Like what happened? We don't know with Azon. And there's a little bit of mystery surrounding his character. So I'm very, very curious to see if in the next couple volumes we're going to find that out. Because he's on the ship with them. He should take that helmet off at some point. Why would Miura find the need to... I get why Miura would put the helmet on him to make him mysterious before we realized it was Azon. But now he's walking around, Serpico's like, oh, hey, Azon. So we know it's him. So why not take the helmet off and show his face unless there's like a reveal that is yet to happen? It doesn't make sense otherwise. So we'll see what happens with that. And maybe if Azon is going to give us some information about Griffith and what's been going on with the Band of the Hawk, and that's going to kind of catch everybody up to speed. Because he's acting kind of goofy right now, a lot goofier than he normally acts. So, or acted back then. So I'm like, all right, we'll see what happens. Now, at this point, I know I don't want spoilers about the baby, about the Moonlit Boy or the baby, because the series is going to give us answers, I'm presuming, at some point. But the baby sacrificed itself. Obviously, the baby that was aborted because of Griffith sacrificed itself to save Casca during the conviction arc. It's on the point. It's either the egg apostle says it's dying, not that it's dead, but that it's dying. So there was still some life in there, but it was saying its spirit was leaving it. So it was swallowed by the egg apostle. It seems the manga makes it appear as if it becomes the body of Griffith when he's rebirthed, or it's fused with that vessel. And Griffith even says it's fused with his vessel. So my thing is, I know the Moonlit Boy is Casca and Guts' baby. It has to be. It has the same eyes as Casca. It looks exactly like her, except it's got pale skin like Guts. It has to be their baby. My question is, Miura, how the hell, how? So, and I'm sure he's going to give us some reason, but I'm just like, did the spirit leave the body of the baby before the egg apostle swallowed it? We're going to come back to that in just a second. But by the end of volume 21, Griffith comes back. He says nothing. He just looks mysterious and ethereal, and everybody's like, oh my God, he's the chosen one. And then he flies away on Zod. And that's pretty much that set of volumes. Volume 22 through 24, I was mainly trying to focus on Griffith and Guts because it's their meeting in. Griffith does meet with Guts, basically to see if he's going to have a crush on him anymore. He decides, no, I no longer have a crush on you or have any feelings towards you or Casca, so now I'm free. I can go be my ethereal ultimate self. He even offers Rickert to join them, which I'm like, you murdered all of their friends and you still are like, hey, come with us if you want. I'm like, yeah, which is such an insult to Pippin and Judo and the others, which just shows how much Griffith doesn't care. He's just so far removed from the situation. He no longer cares about his past actions or the present. He just has his one goal and doesn't care for anyone else. They're all just pawns to him. And I'm like, that's cool, but it's kind of boring. I don't know. I've had a lot of people in the comments be like, it's so engaging how Griffith is like setting all of this up as a chessboard. And I'm like, yeah, but I guess my whole thing with theorizing and questioning Griffith's motives this whole time was that I was wanting to see if Miura was planning on doing anything with that. Or it's like, is Miura's goal really just to be like, Griffith's setting up a chessboard for him to be an almighty being? And I was like, okay, well, maybe there'll be something more to it. But there's not. That's all it is just him manipulating people. And I guess that would be cool if Griffith had some humanity remaining or had some relationships with other people, because usually like a villain is really engaging when they have flaws. And right now the only flaw is the baby fused to him, which we'll talk about in a second. That's like the only flaw he has, which is fine. It's a great flaw symbolically, but nothing has happened with that other than him saving Casca in that moment. That's been the only time the baby has come up at all. And so there's been no reference back to it since volume 21, which was 13 volumes ago. And Griffith instead is just like the baby. If again, Miura does this thing where he introduces something one volume and then 20 years later, there's a payoff. And you're like, wow, that was great. But it would have been cool if you had, maybe strung some stuff along the way or gave us some feedback or something to latch onto along the way. Instead, you're expected to just be like, oh my God, the payoff. But there was no lead up to it. It was just like you introduced it and then it happens. And that's what I feel like Griffith's whole thing is going to be. Like, I keep waiting for like Griffith to reference the baby again, or for like him to like feel that throbbing in his heart again. No. And then it's like he doesn't even acknowledge the baby anymore, which now the baby's, and then there's the Moonlit Boy, which I'm like, well, how did you all get separated? How does that work, Miura? What we're going to talk about, I'm getting ahead of myself. But I guess my whole thing is Griffith was so intriguing during the Golden Age arc and pre-Eclipse because he had all these desires and ambitions, and you could see the path to villainy. Like you could see him spiraling up there, but you always had Guts and Casca kind of like, oh, they're going to be his complication. And then once the eclipse happens, he just kind of goes, yeah, those are my complications. And now I'm just going to like forget that. And now I'm perfect. And it's like, but perfect is boring. So I'm like, now he's in volume 21. I think I was so frustrated because I was like, oh, so these dynamic relations that were going to make your character interesting are now gone. So is your character going to be interesting? And I don't think he is anymore. I'm just like, oh, cool. Was he ever interesting to begin with? I think he was during Golden Age. But anyway, so Guts and Casca's baby has fused to his vessel. And when Griffith saves Casca, he doesn't do anything. He just stands there. And so Femto, we know, was fueled by anger, lust, jealousy, which caused him to violate Casca when he didn't need to. He could have just left them there to die and go, but he didn't do that. He violated Casca, and it caused her to abort the baby, which created the demon baby to begin with, which led to everything that's happened here. So, I mean, in that sense, Griffith has created his own flaw, which is very Shakespearean, very intriguing. I like that aspect a lot. So he can't come back and be perfect. But the problem is he has no personality. So it's this cool symbolic thing, but then you have this husk of a person that you're like, but what do we do with that? And so I don't know. Miura plays a long game, but it can be very frustrating for somebody if you're impatient for character development, being like, you gonna give us anything? And Miura's like, nope. You're like, ah! So, but yeah. So anyway, they decide to head off to Elfhelm, and Guts promises to stay by Casca's side, which he has kept to that promise, which is good. even if he doesn't understand, what I do appreciate about that moment in hindsight, going back and rereading it, is that Guts doesn't know that Casca was drawn to Griffith because of the baby, which I'm 99.9% sure that's what it is. He doesn't know that. So by his logic, he thinks that she was attracted to Griffith, not the baby fused inside Griffith's body. But he still decides to stay by her side. I think it's a nice moment where you had Griffith, who was consumed by lust and jealousy of Casca being with Guts, and Guts essentially choosing Casca over Griffith, and Griffith couldn't stand it. I like that you have this contrast of Guts not being jealous and being like, well, I don't like it, but I love her, so I'm going to stay by her side and help her no matter what. I think it's a nice contrast and shows how much Guts is growing, whereas Griffith is stagnant and no longer growing as a character. He's reached his peak and he has nowhere to go, right? So I do still think that, well, let's get to this first. The dog is... Going back to the dog, I like that we saw that the Beast of Darkness, it has like a little Doberman form back in volume 21, 22, or 22 into 23. I do like that the dog is essentially trying to ship Guts with Griffith. He's like, don't you think Griffith is precious too, instead of Casca? And I'm like, what are you, a shipper? And when the dog says Casca is no longer the woman that Guts once knew, that is true. But in that moment, I was like, well, Griffith and Guts are no longer the people that they once were during the Golden Age arc. So that's kind of the point. Like, they've changed as well. And that doesn't necessarily mean that Guts should abandon Casca just because she's different from what he remembers. And again, I feel like with Skull Knight telling Guts that, you know, his wish of her to go back to the way she was may not be possible or what she wants, I think that kind of ties along to it. And I'm hopeful that Guts is going to get to a point where he acknowledges that, he understands that, but we'll wait and see. But I still think volume 23, the assault by Guts, to me, it is still clunky. When he kills the men that assaulted Casca, which we've talked about enough. What I wanted him to do is take the sword away from Casca and just hug her and just comfort her and be what he, I assume, thought he was going to be. But that's not what happens, and he assaults her instead. Someone in the comments went like, he assaults her a little. I'm like, no. I'm going to bring that up in the video essay. And I appreciate that it's a moment where Guts has to have a reset, though, where at that moment, he realizes he's at the bottom. We talked about last week with the hero's journey. He's at the bottom of the bottom, and he's like, I got to do something. This isn't working, and I'm hurting her now, which is the absolute opposite thing of what I want to do. The only thing I don't like about that whole moment as a whole is that it sucks that Casca, who has no agency, has to suffer in order for Guts to grow, and her character gets nothing out of it. Like, her character gets nothing out of it. Someone commented, they're like, well, Casca, you know, has been the glue that's held the band, this new band of the Hawk together. She's the glue that holds everyone together and keeps them going. And I'm like, yeah, she is. And I appreciate that, but Casca gets nothing out of it. Like, her character is just an object. It's just a means to an end. She doesn't have any agency. She's not even human practically at this point in the manga. She's just something there to help the other characters develop. And I talked about that way back when, being like, I hope that's not what her character does. And it's been what it's been doing, which is why I'm really excited for her to get to Elfhelm. I'm like, get your damn mind back. At least be able to talk in complete sentences so that you can tell these people to leave you alone. So her character gets nothing. I just hate the idea that it does create this kind of precedent of, oh, well, it's okay to hurt this person as long as you grow from it. And I'm like, which I don't think is Guts. I'm not saying that's Guts' overall thing with Casca, but in that moment in volume 23, it very much presents that message. And it's something that irks me. And I'm probably gonna have to talk about in the video essay even more. But I don't know. What about that person? And I know Guts does develop, but you know, it's at the service of Casca's pain continuing in volume 23. But luckily Miura does not continue that trajectory. It does get better. It's just the darkest moment in the manga. I feel like the Eclipse in volume 23 are the darkest moments of the manga. And they're the moments that I'm like, I don't think you did right there, Miura. At least volume 13 or 14, the Eclipse, it makes sense. There's a point behind it. I feel like volume 23 stuff is a bit clunky narrative-wise and could have been written better, but that's just my personal opinion. So then we have volume 25 through 27, which are the trolls. no need to go further into that. What is interesting is that Griffith, something that I don't know if it's an inconsistency with Griffith's character, but he just gets done telling in volume 22 that he has no emotion towards Guts and Casca, who are the people he's had the most emotion to. And then he is kind of like cryptic and mysterious, like he's always been with the Band of the Hawk with the others. But with Charlotte, he smiles and shows kind of a side of himself like before, which is weird to me. Because it's like, if he's emotionless, I mean, I know it's all deception. I understand. I got that from 10 volumes ago and it's not changed. But it is an interesting choice. And when Charlotte says she's awoken from a dream, it's frustrating because it's like, no, bitch, you haven't. You're still in the dream. You just don't think. It's like Inception. Now, the best parts for me is Flora and Skull Knight in those volumes, because I love their dynamic. I like that Flora and Skull Knight are friends. Going back and rereading, I'm like, okay, yeah, they're basically friends the same way that Guts and Shirk have been friends. Now, Flora talks about existential selves changing forms through death in the astral world. And so that was right before we got to the chapters with the Moonlit baby. So I'm like, okay, so the baby could have reshapen into the Moonlit boy, but as of our knowledge up until now, he's been fused with Griffith. So, and Miura never shows us like the baby defusing from Griffith. He never shows like the spirit leaving Griffith. He never shows us any indication of that. So how does that work with him leaving Griffith? Or can he do that? Did he leave a part of himself with Griffith in that shell and the rest is reshapen? The fact that Miura tells us nothing, I know a lot of people are like, it's so mysterious and we'll find out later and it'll be this big. But it's one of those moments, again, you got to throw a clue out, Miura. And I'm sure that once I figure it out and the story shows us, then that clue will become present. And maybe some of you figured it out. I don't know how, because I like have racked my brain around this and I'm like, it just doesn't make sense. But I'm sure Miura has an explanation for it when we get to it. So we'll just have to wait and see. The Moonlit Boy is clearly Casca and Guts' child. I don't know how he's separated from the vessel that's Griffith, except for maybe those previous theories, or why he showed up at the beach, or why he left. It would have been great if Skull Knight had seen the baby and made comment, but we don't get anything. And I'm like, oh, Miura, just edging us the whole time. And then with this last set of volumes, Griffith is just setting up a chessboard over probably the course of a decade in real time. I wish at this point, I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe it will. Maybe it will. I need to be more optimistic. Maybe Guts, when he faces the apostles again, maybe we will get information about Grunbeld and Locus and Irvine, but I don't think so at this point. Miura's had 10 years of writing to incorporate any backstory, and he's chosen not to. And you had all the time in the world to do it. So if you didn't do it then, why would you do it now? Maybe he will once they battle, and it'll be like the shonen, the stereotype where it's like right before they die, you get a flashback. That whole thing, like the flashback of death. I just wish we gotten more. The most we get is Grunbeld and Locust kind of have like a one-off sentence about their backstory. And then Irvine says, he'd become a beast chasing his prey. But that's all we get. At least with Zod, there was like some like lore that Rickert was spouting back in Golden Age. But here, the apostles, they look cool, but there's just no substance to their characters. It's just like they look cool. It's kind of like Griffith. There's lots of style, but right now there's just not any substance. So I'm like, And I'm sure people will be like, they're so mysterious. Like, the chessboard setting up, I told people in the Discord, I feel like I figured this out 10 volumes ago, what the game was. And now you've just been sitting here watching it set up. And I know some people think that that's tension inducing, and it is. It makes me more impatient than anything. I'm like, okay, we've gotten here. We know in this volume, Griffith's going to face Ganishka. We know Ganishka's not going to win. He's going to get beaten by Griffith. So it's like, I'm like, the surprise is going to be, well, how? And that's cool. That's fine. I just want this, for being the end-all be-all series that people claim Berserk is, I'm like, I've seen it done more engagingly in other series, and I want to see it happen in Berserk. I want Berserk to live up to its reputation. So right now, it's like Berserk is beautifully illustrated. Like it is by far one of the best illustrated series I've ever read in my life. Miura's artwork is, you can't really compare it to anybody else's, but that's artwork. As far as the story goes, I'm not gonna say anything. I want it to live up to its reputation, and we'll see if it does. Now, that being said, I really like Guts' story and his journey. It's been a long one. It's a long snail-paced journey, but it has been really good. And I like Shirk's character a lot. She's probably one of my favorites as well. I like Shirk a lot. I like Guts and Shirk's relationship quite a bit. I really could not give a shit about Griffith. I'm ready for him just to leave. I'm ready for Griffith just to go be king somewhere and be like, you know what? Let the world go. They all believe in you. Let them go. If they're that dumb, let them burn. I don't know. The only exception is Psylocke, who came by last volume and was like a massive breath of fresh air. I was like, oh, thank God. Somebody is questioning Griffith. Thank God. Somebody's questioning, like, isn't this weird? I love that Psylocke is the one to call all of this into question. Like, it made me love his character 1,000 times more. I'm like, Psylocke is the one aspect about this arc with Griffith's side of the story that is keeping me engaged. Otherwise, I just want to flip the pages and be like, we know what's going to happen. Let's get back to the ship, because at least the ship's fun. And Psylocke at least is keeping me somewhat enthused as to what we're going to get out of it. So, but that's where we're at. So we're on Deluxe Volume 12. And Volume 34, we have 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. We have basically 9 volumes before we're caught up, which doesn't seem like a lot, but a lot can happen in 9 volumes. So fingers crossed on that one. But I've talked for nearly half an hour. We might as well go ahead and start. So we're going to dive into Berserk, Volume 34. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. I hate that I sound like I'm complaining about Berserk. I told the Discord, I was like, this is one thing that has frustrated me the last arc, is just, I've really liked, like I said, volumes 38 through 34. Volumes 28 through 34 have been so good, and they've gotten back to that quality of the Golden Age. For a long time in Berserk, I just kind of had this feeling of, is this the series that everybody's claiming is really, really good? Because, I mean, it's fine, but it's not like the Golden Age, and I don't know what to feel about it. And now the last couple of volumes, I have started to feel some of the payoffs, and they are there, which is good. This is why I'm like, whenever people are like, this series is amazing, you'll love it, I'm like, oh, don't tell me that, because I have high expectations and a very high standard. And so when you tell me that, I'm like, it's got to live up to it. But so far, with the stuff with Guts has lived up to it. The stuff with Griffith, I really expected Griffith's story to go a whole different direction, but that's all right. Miura knows how to draw a damn horse, though. And somebody on horseback. So let's get into this. We have a new page. The characters are pretty much the same. We just have Ganishka added. An apostle and emperor of the Kushan Empire. He tried to reincarnate himself again in an effort to surpass the God Hand, but assume the form of a giant demonic beast. Yeah, which means that he's going to die. All right. Oh, we have our little, got our little thing here. Emperor Ganishka of the Kushan Empire was an apostle. His desire was to extend the territory under his control to every corner of the world, and then surpass and transcend the God Hand, beings who stand above the apostles. To this end, he joined together the bodies of captured apostles to build an artificial reincarnation vessel, produced reincarnation vessel, produced a force of demonic beasts and grouped them together with humans from lands he ruled to populate a large army. He then challenged Griffith, who was far beyond his level. Realizing that he could currently do nothing against Griffith, Ganishka lowered himself into the reincarnation vessel in an attempt at a second reincarnation, and thus he was reborn as a towering demonic beast that stood practically as tall as the sky. However, his ego imploded, and he began to attack any enemy or ally in his path. What will Griffith and the new Band of the Hawk do in face of this giant beast? Well, they're going to beat it through means, obviously. I do like the symbolism of, if you let your ego and you let your rage and anger go unchecked and you get to this point of no return, that it will make you into this beast that will probably be easily defeated by somebody smarter than you. So don't do that. But anyway. So, giant god of blindness. And everybody's like, holy shit, there's a massive... Yeah. And again, the imagery, Miura's imagery is amazing. Like, it just looks like it's Lovecraftian Gumby. Going through there, Lovecraftian Gumby going across the page. Oh my God. Now this part is terrifying. The symbolism of the red blooms and all the Kushan army being smushed to pieces by him is absolutely terrifying. Utterly terrifying. And I don't know if it's supposed to be making a statement about war and when the heads of war get to a state where they decide that they're just going to wipe out an entire race of people, that they are negligent of their own people in terms of that and how it's going to affect them. Seems like there's a correlation to that. It seems like there's a correlation to that that Miura is making a statement about, ever so subtly. As subtly as this moment of him just smashing his own people. You know, you could make a lot of correlations with a lot of wars about this, and it probably would, you know, be pretty accurate. They're flowers. Yep. I crushed the insects and red flowers bloomed. I like that. Oh, the old wizard general. Those are soldiers of the Empire. Can't you see them? They're down at your feet. And he doesn't even notice the one guy anymore. Oh my God. Yeah. You get to this point. It's kind of like, okay, Guts, don't let the beast of darkness control you, because otherwise you're going to end up like Ganishka and avoid everyone around you. Oh my God. Well, that's just like fire and brimstone. His Majesty's ego is no longer... This is no longer His Majesty the Emperor, the great Emperor Ganishka. It's just like... I mean, it's all this evil manifesting in one moment. And I feel bad for his soldiers there. The one who destroys the world with fire, Shiva himself. Yeah. It just basically becomes this deity. It like has like little piranha plants coming off of its Gumby Lovecraftian arms. I mean, it sucks. Obviously, we want this monster to be destroyed, but at the same time, I kind of like, I feel bad for all the parties involved. I don't feel bad for Griffith or Ganishka because they both led each other to this point. But I especially am like, Griffith orchestrated this whole thing to happen. Like, he knew what he was doing. He let Ganishka live because he knew Ganishka would go to the extreme like this. Like, Griffith planned all this out. So I'm like, this is all in line with Griffith's plan, which makes me even more mad at Griffith because I'm like, you're not only causing all of these people to die, but you're putting all these people that you claim to be saving at risk. And that's the point. That's Miura's whole point in this. And I'm like, okay, what do we do with that? What's this boundless landscape? The only moving things are bugs creeping on the earth. Isn't anyone there? Anyone? What are soldiers? Daiba. What is that? Who am I? Yeah, it's just, you lost all semblance of self at that point. Isn't there anyone there? Somebody be there. And I don't know if Miura is trying to make us feel for Ganishka in this moment as he's turning inhuman. I don't know. I feel like I'm going to make an Attack on Titan reference here real quick. So if you've not watched Attack on Titan or read it, then just, I'm going to put this up here. I'm going to have spoilers for Attack on Titan it's like season 2, so it's far back. But anyway, I kind of think that Isayama took this concept of this destructive force and gave it humanity in a smart way. Like, I think back to Attack on Titan in episode 11 of season 2, Charge. And in that season, in that episode, you have Bertolt, who is a colossal titan. So he kind of like is not on this scale, not on Ganishka's scale at all, but kind of in reference to that show within its world, kind of that equivalent. And he kind of says the same thing. He's like, isn't there someone there to hear us or to listen to us? It works effectively there in that series because Bertolt still has his humanity, and you realize that, and you realize this monster you've been thinking of as a monster this whole time is actually human and has human qualities and is not so different from you or I. Here, when Ganishka says this, I don't really feel bad for him because I'm like, one, you wanted this, And 2, you've been doing all these vile things. So without any recourse, and you've been unapologetically evil. Whereas in the case of Attack on Titan, you find out within these flawed characters the reasons why they're doing it. And some of them are pushed into corners where they have to do certain things. Ganishka chose all this. So I'm like, I don't really feel so bad for him. Oh, yes. And then there's Griffith, of course. There's Griffith. Miura loves to draw him some Griffith, for sure. That's the thing I wanted. That light, that very light is my... Again, there's a little bit of comparison to Ganishka and Guts, I guess we could say in this case. We have, with Ganishka, this idea of wanting power. And Griffith kind of represents that. And that led him to, and wanting that power led him to become a monster. But what is interesting is with Guts, it's not quite that. What he wanted was essentially like friendship, which was through Griffith. But then that was all dashed by the Eclipse, and it led to wanting revenge, which is where the Beast of Darkness comes in. So it seems like it's similar, but it is rather different. Whereas Ganishka never wanted to be Griffith's friend. He always wanted to have the power and omnipotence that Griffith seemed to possess. And because he couldn't get it, that's what led him to making these choices. Whereas Guts initially wanted to be Griffith's equal. He didn't want to surpass him like Ganishka. He wanted to be his equal and be his friend because Griffith said, well, nobody can be my friend unless they're my equal. And I'm like, oh my God, what a diva. And then when he couldn't get that and Griffith betrayed him and betrayed that friendship, then it led him to wanting revenge, which is where the Beast of Darkness sort of manifested or started to manifest. So it's different. It's just interesting how it's kind of portrayed similarly, even though we, the audience, know it's somewhat different. That was a very short chapter. That was a very short chapter. Demonic release. Oh, and of course, from the pools of blood and all of the soldiers that were killed and all of the negative energy, it's just going to create more demons. Of course it is. And they all have Ganishka's like teeth and everything. Well, that sucks. That's horrifying. Miura does create some amazing designs. Oh, and then it's just like a cycle. It's literally a cycle. Like this is just all symbolic of war creating monsters, monsters eating monsters. And it's just this big cyclical thing. And they're all going towards the light. And of course, Griffith is the head demon of the God Hand. So of course the demons are all drawn to it, just like they were during the eclipse. Yep, of course. And I like that Griffith knows this. Griffith knows they're all going towards him, attracted to him, and he's willing to put all of these humans' lives on the line just because to make it look like a show, right? Oh my God. Of course. It's like, yep, we all volunteered to be here. Fear not, princess. Sonia will stay with his holiness and her highness. Of course Sonia will. Let me stay with you. Listen to reason for once. Yeah, Sonia wants to stay. So Sonia and Miura are sent back to stay with them. All of these people are deceived. So they're all deceived. So what can we say about it? And then, yeah. And so Griffith's going to go face the demons and he's probably going to beat them and everybody's going to be like, go Griffith, you're amazing. And we all know better. So it just, at least it's drawn pretty. Yeah. And then of course there's all these demons. And Psylocke watching from the sidelines. I want to feel the stakes, but I know he's going to win. Oh, demonic release. Okay, yeah, and I'm sure he's like, go wild, demons, and destroy all of these monsters. Kubo would be proud of that page. We did a double spread of just Griffith saying 2 words. He'd be proud of that. Uh-huh. And then all of them, yeah, release the demon side of them. Yeah. And the thing about it is, what also comes of this is that Griffith, like, it shows all of them becoming their demonic selves. Zod, of course, Zod and Grunbild look the best. They have the dragon and the big, you know, fuzzy lion, black lion with the unicorn horn. I'm just like, I can't think this is cool because they're all evil and horrible and they killed Flora and like okay. But what this is going to do is that all the people who would be scared of this, Griffith is going to convince them, oh, well, see, they had to do that to save you. So they're not really that bad. It's okay to become a demon and an apostle. It's okay to become an apostle and worship me. It's fine. You know, that's all part of the deception, right? But it's just literally monsters fighting monsters. And Psylot's been the only one to call out on it. Yeah. And then there's, I mean, I'll give Miura props and credit where credit's due. This is gorgeous. Like, the artwork is beautiful. It looks great. I'm not gonna say it doesn't. Oh my God, it's just page after page of this. I mean, it looks great. It's just demons fighting demons. Looks good. That was the chapter? Oh my God, this volume's gonna be the shortest volume ever. I'm like, Miura. And it's like a who's who of demons. Like, I'm sure we've seen a bunch of these from the Eclipse. I'm sure. Of them just fighting. An inhuman battlefield. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just, oh my God. Just lots of good artwork. I feel like I'm looking through a picture book. I guess this is pretty much the epitome of my thoughts on Griffith's arc from the last 10 volumes. There are no words. There's no words. There's not character development. It's beautiful to look at, but this is all it is. And I'm like, cool. I mean, I guess, what did you expect? Because you knew Miura was building up to this, and Miura draws it beautifully. I do like Grunbild being this giant dragon. He looks like a Pokemon being this giant dragon, which dragon Pokemons are my favorites. I like it. It's cool. Oh my God. If this chapter is just pictures and there's no dialogue, could you imagine being a reader of this going, well, this is cool. Neat. Oh my God, I like the Whale Lord with the human face. Uh-huh, and then Mantis Man. Irvine, right? Or is that Loki? Locus. It's probably Locus. Oh, and then there's Zod. I was like, we have to have some eyeballs splitting, and Zod's the one to do it. I also feel like at this point, if we had saw this back in volume 1, it would have blown our minds, and we'd been like, oh my God. But now we've seen so much of this over the course of the series that it's all leading up to this. And I'm like, wow, if Guts had, given into his inner demon, he would have been part of this. Would Griffith have turned Rickard into an apostle? Would that have been a thing? I don't know. I don't want to think about that. I'm glad Rickard stayed behind with Erica. I mean, it's beautiful. The artwork is gorgeous. I love how Zod looks on that page. His horn looks like it's getting thicker and thicker. And you can make that what you will. Oh, and of course, Griffith, I like that all these guys are just standing there watching this go down, and Griffith's just standing there like, I'm so perfect. Nothing bad's happened to me. It's just like, oh, like the Eclipse all over again. The war demons. Yeah. Oh my God. Disgusting, right? I like that Psylot's like, holy shit. Psylot's like, this is bad. And Charlotte and them, the thing is, they all stare at this and they're not questioning like, this seems rather weird. Should we question this? They're probably going to be like, good job, Griffith and War Demons. That's probably what's going to happen. Psylot's like, the fudge? Maybe not though. They're monsters. They aren't human. I sensed they were different, but I never expected this. No man would ever. We would never stand in a fight, not with a fight between demons like this. Why is he leading such demons? What the hell is the hawk? I'm like, oh, are you all going to realize that he's a demon too? Are you all going to realize that? Maybe this will go. Maybe they all will freak out around Griffith and be like, oh yeah. Yeah, maybe we've been following a demonic presence this entire time and that was a bad thing. Maybe. You idiots. What? Sonia. Sonia, we were just getting somewhere. They were starting to question him. Sonia, don't fuck this up. They were starting to question him. Girl, do not defend Griffith. His actions do not need defending. The medium of the hawk. Miura, we were just getting to where everybody was starting to question, like, oh, wait, maybe Griffith's a demon and this is a bad thing. And now she's going to come up and be like, guys, you can't just not have faith in Griffith. He's actually our savior. Don't have not have faith. Bitch, what? What does it matter? So what if they aren't human? So what if they're demons? Who's that shedding blood? Who's that risking their lives? Humans or demons? Wrong. What matters is whether we fight beside Griffith the Hawk. After all, we're the band of the Hawk. But girl, you're all being used by him. Like, well, who cares that they're demons? Like, they're supposed to be a symbol of how bad war is and how, like, you shouldn't be in that situation. Like, Miura, why? We're not supposed to feel like this is a good moment. And, well, damn it, Sonia. And of course, Griffith is not going to let his medium that's in charge of convincing all the people get hurt. So he's going to protect her, right? Oh, no, it's Irvine. Oh, it was Irvine. With the bow, because there's the eye from the bow that's on the beast. He's like, is he a centaur? Is he like a reverse centaur? Because like, like the stub of his tail is the beast. Your rash medium. Did you think you'd go up against that yourself? Like some peevish child during your speech. It did convey your point. No! No! Damn it! No! Oh my God, why, Miura, why are you treating this like this is a good thing? This is so messed up. Like, no. Miura. Damn, this is frustrating. Ugh! It's so frustrating because it feels like it's just giving these conflicting messages. I mean, I like Irvine and the moment where he saves Sonia. Like, that is sweet. But, like, Irvine gave in to his beast of darkness. So, which I know that Miura doesn't want Guts to do the same, but... Ugh. Yeah, it feels like, and I know that's not the case, but it feels like everything Miura is writing is supporting all of this. And saying that it's oh yeah, root for them. But like, but we're not supposed to root for Griffith. And everybody's like, oh no, we're not supposed to root for Griffith. He's just setting up a chessboard and stuff. But yeah. But Griffith's just going to get his way. Ugh. And it sucks because we, the reader, know that to become an apostle, you basically sacrifice your humanity and you give up everything that makes you human, which includes protecting and loving people that you care about. So I'm like, well, what about Irvine protecting and helping Sonia? Like, what does that mean? And it just feels like it does a disservice to everything that happened during the eclipse. Chaos. My name's Sonia. And I'm like, I mean, I would like to enjoy this relationship between Sonia and between Sonia and Irvine, but I'm like, you bitches killed Flora, and you're plotting the demise of the entire human realm, even though Sonia may not realize it. So I'm like, I want to like this. I want to think it's cute, but I'm like, am I supposed to? It's very complicated. I mean, I like Irvine's design, and I like his relationship with Sonia, but he's gonna fight Guts and all of them, and am I supposed to root for him? I don't... It moved like a ripple. And with this nice nightmarish spectacle as its backdrop, it spread further and further. Yeah, because these apostles, they talked about eating humans back during the siege with back the one thing. They're like, we haven't had human flesh in forever. We want to eat humans. And Zod was like, no, we're trying to fool the masses. But here, they're like, we can all be friends. And I'm like, what? Yeah, and it's just... And like them working with Griffith and destroying these demons, it's just enabling Griffith to be able to be like, well, let's go fight here now. And you guys can fight with the demons and do this. And we're all working together towards a cause. And like, how is this... Beasts and men, wolves and sheep, holy and wicked, dream and reality, life and death, they are now hand in hand. And I suppose this is supposed to be the world breaking apart and the world's fissuring and separating, but Miura does not make it clear whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. He doesn't make it clear, and it's very sad. Humans and apostles, it's inconceivable. Apostles are the heresy to the world of man, infernal reincarnations via dark arts of those with extreme ego and desire. They ridicule and are ridiculed. They despise and are despised. They hate and are hated. These twisted, resurrected monstrosities met death at the brink of karma. And now they fight alongside men, not because they're forced to, but in fact willingly. So it's cool to give it all up and become demons and apostles now? people fear the unknown, they speak the same words to one another. Because they fear the unknown, they distrust words they don't understand. Because they fear the unknown, they believe in a doctrine. Because they fear the unknown, they reject other gods. I don't know what to think. Because I definitely ascribe myself as somebody that, you have that notion of, well, people only hate others because they fear the unknown. And it's like, and you shouldn't fear someone, based on how they look and everything. And that's true, but it's like these demons represent like murderers and rapists and the worst of the world. And yet this story is suggesting that, oh no, we should work alongside them. Like, we're just afraid of them because of the unknown. I'm like, no, they've established themselves. And Miura establishes that these apostles are because they made an evil choice and they let evil into their heart. And it's like Miura is saying, well, we can work with them because that's fine. This is, yeah. We're filled with exaltation. What a radiant chaos this is. And it's like the story is making it seem like it's so great that we're all working together in this chaos. And we can work together with them and it's fine. And we'll all just get along hunky-dory. And I'm like, and the part that frustrates me is that Miura makes no like mention here that this is bad and doesn't like remind us like, hey, this is bad. He hasn't done that in like 10 volumes. And I'm like, isn't this a bad thing? When are you going to show us that it's a bad thing? And he's not showing us that. He's just like, yeah, it's fine. I'm like, no, you're not showing us this is a bad thing. It's just like, oh, sure, yeah. We know that these creatures have murdered, humankind. We know that they became apostles out of hatred and evil, and they've done these unspeakable things, but it's fine. Why should we judge them? Why should we be judging them? We should be working with them. It's totally good. And I'm like, again, the idea that they bear no responsibility is so frustrating. The flight. Ugh. Yay! Griffiths united everybody together. Everybody's totally cool with this. Everybody's totally cool with all of this. It's fine. Nobody's questioning, something like, and it's like, it's almost like, remember how we judged everyone back in volume 21? Remember how we were judging people based on them doing bad acts? We shouldn't judge people based on that. And that's fine if people repent and if people, make changes to themselves. Like, Guts committed that horrible act against Casca back in volume 3, but he's been actively taking responsibility and making himself better. These characters aren't doing that. They're just like, oh, it's totally fine that we were doing that. It's great. As long as we win, then it's totally fine. And yeah. Oh my God. What is this? And Psylot's not saying anything in this volume, so. And, oh, it's Ganishka. Yeah. And then, of course, he's trying to stamp them all out. And I don't necessarily want Sonia and Charlotte and them to die, but the fact they're not realizing what Griffith is and that he's using all of them, it's like, Miura, how long are you going to make this go on? Oh, and of course there's Zod. Rising up like a damn halo. It looks like an atomic blast and a halo at the same time. Of course he would. Oh, of course. Yeah. And of course Griffith is going to go where they can't see him to become Femto. Probably. Of course he is. Of course he is. They won't see what happens next. They won't see what happens next. Of course not. Mm-hmm. And just going through all those thorns and everything. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then there's all that. Yeah. It looks like, you know what it looks like? It looks like during the eclipse where you sat down on the ground and it was just all faces. And these are all faces of Ganishka. It's basically a redoing of that. Uh-huh. Oh, and there's the other one there too, watching. Oh, does Zod know that he's watching? Does Zod know he's seeing all of this? Does Zod realize he's there? And that's the center of it, right? Oh, Guts and Griffith. Backlighting. Oh, sudden backstory with Ganishka. That's usually not a good sign. My mother doted upon my younger brother, and to ensure that he took the throne, she poisoned me when I was 6. Interesting. Oh, and it shows him with a knife. But he killed his brother. After I did away with my brother and my mother cast herself down, nothing changed. The royalty and aristocracy in the palace would sometimes show hostility, sometimes feign support, as they plotted to kill me, the prince. Oh, okay. So he survived the poison, he killed the brother, and she committed suicide. I survived that den of vipers. And the things that met the serpent prince's eyes from the throne were the king's eyes, eyes filled with suspicion and fear. While on a royal visit, the king was thrown to his death when his mount suddenly went berserk. Again, it's like that notion of, as children, Ganishka was met with hostility, and it just led to this spiral and this cycle of violence within him. But I ascended to the throne. But though I ascended to the throne, I knew no peace. This young snake king of a small kingdom had keen ears. The dragons of the warring nations were lying in wait. To survive, I devoted myself, mind and soul, to war. The viper-like cunning and composure I'd cultivated since childhood allowed me to cheat death many times. I had to inspire fear greater than my own. As was customary with the warring nations, I took a wife from the royalty of a neighboring kingdom and even had a son. But with all my time devoted to war, I didn't have occasion to turn back and look at family. No, I feared it. The idea of mother and child. Oh, because of his own mom and his brother being wanted before, and his brother being wanted more than him, being afraid that child was going to be wanted more than him. So he has all these insecurities and basically devoted himself to violence and everything. I find it interesting that Miura keeps going back to the notion of mother and child and being something he feared, because then you have Casca and the demon baby. You have Guts and his mom, and they're the two main examples. For many months and years, I fought from battlefield to battlefield and became a peerless dragon among the dragons of nations. At some point, the ambition to reign supreme over the world possessed me. It was as if no amount of blood could ever paint over my irreconcilable fear. I returned to the royal palace after several years to attend a banquet. The eyes of my son looking down at me were fearful and turbid, as if reflecting how mine once looked. And he was poisoned then too! But there was a behelit. Oh, shit. It's this idea of like intergenerational trauma where he was just, you know, he had a horrible experience as a child. He led his own child to fear him, and it just became this cycle. And it was a behelit, which, as we know, the God Hand, they just leave around for people to have. That strange stone was once presented to me, but a stranger at Sadhu at the side of the road. Of course it was. Of course it was presented to you. Uh-huh. By the wizard general, I'm sure. And then, yep, and then he became a demon and killed his son. And it was just this big old cycle of violence. Life, the world, it's all darkness. In the all-engulfing darkness, you fear, you instill fear, you writhe and creep. Lightlessness, that is life. Basically, if you want to avoid scenarios like this, love someone and be nice to them and cultivate a relationship with them, because so far all of these people that end up becoming horrible demons have terrible relationships or lack of relationships with others. And like, it's a sign of Guts and Casca being Guts' anchor to keep him from going to that same place. Light, it's blinding. I can't see. It's warm, but I can't touch it. I'll be burned. You can see. Because he who bears light exists in the deepest shadow. That doesn't quite make sense, but it sounds cool. Oh, and of course it's Femto in that moment that kills him. Uh-huh, yeah. As if we were questioning that it was Femto this whole time. Of course we knew it was him, his real form. Of course we knew. He's like, okay, I'm going to kill you and become king now. Bye. And within its darkness, that true light is discovered. I don't like that because that insinuates that Griffith is this bringer of good joy to you. Like, he'll show you the light after he kills you. I'm like, fuck no. Oh! Is this Skull Knight? Is this... Oh! Oh my god! Oh my god! What? What? Oh my god! Oh, Skull Knight! Why are you here? What? No! This is not good. No, Skull Knight's not going to win because Femto is not going to just die. Oh my god, what is happening? No, this is not good. As much as I want to cheer on Skull Knight, this is narratively a bad thing because that means Skull Knight's not going to win. Oh my god, no, I don't like where this is going at all. Oh, I don't like where this is going at all. Oh! Oh my god, fissure. Oh, it's too soon. We still have 9 volumes to go and the story's not done after that. What are we doing? What's happening? I mean, I'm glad Skull Knight's here. And Zod's like, holy shit, but what now? I was waiting for you. Oh, of course you were, Griffith. Of course you were. Oh, shit. Well, crap. The one who targets the God Hand at temporal nexuses, the Skull Knight. Damn it. You must have distorted space. Shit. Causality is brought to fruition with this sword stroke. Oh, well, of course we couldn't just kill Griffith that easily. Of course we couldn't. Of course we couldn't. one twice reincarnated, and a sword stroke which reaches still deeper into the spirit world have opened the door. Shit. Well, crap. You went to strike at Femto and you ended up opening the fissure anyway. Crap. So twice reincarnated. So basically suggesting he became an apostle and was reincarnated that way. And then, oh, one twice reincarnated. No, Ganishka is the one he's talking about. Oh my God. Well, shit. Skull Knight's like, crap. You know, so was Skull Knight helping this process, or was he trying to kill Femto and it just didn't work? Oh my God. Either way, I was really worried about Skull Knight showing up because I don't want Skull Knight to die or get killed, and it feels like it's too early, and obviously I don't think Femto's gonna get destroyed by Skull Knight. So, oh my God. Oh, and then everything's just, oh my God, everything, all these like different dimensions and portals and warped moments, and everybody's like, what's going on? What could be happening? Oh my God, and it all just erupting. So, is this going to mix their two worlds together and Griffith's going to become king of both worlds, essentially? Oh my God. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, it's like all of them, it's like their astral forms, right? Oh my God, and Silent and everyone. Is it all going to make them into like, because it looks like the astral forms that like Farinase and them had. Oh shit. Oh no. Creation. It's just gonna fuse the worlds together. Oh my God. This is like, oh my God, this is like a horror movie. Is it gonna reach the ship where Guts and all them are? Of course, there'd be the symbol there. Oh my God. Oh, it's just, yeah, it's just redoing everything. Oh. Oh shit. Yeah. There's the ship and everything. Crap. Oh. So what do we do with this? Oh, his hair, it's not white at the top. Oh my God. Skull Knight, did you just cause all this to be a catalyst, or was Griffith going to do it anyway? Oh my God. The entire world. Yeah, the entire world's just getting bathed and fused in all of this. There's the moon. Oh, a bunch of unicorns. Yeah, you know. Unicorns, crazy stuff happening. Or were there unicorns already and we're just getting to the place where they were? Oh my God. Maybe there were unicorns all along, but not anymore because of the snake monsters. So is everything, are people all going to be fused with demons? And that's just going to be a thing and that's just it? And it's all going to be gray area. There's no black and white distinction between good and evil anymore. Not that there was to begin with, but y'all know what I mean. Oh my God. Well, I mean, yeah, and all the demons and everything. Like, all the worlds are combining, right? Yeah, the worlds are combining. And there's all these harpies. Oh my God. Fantasia. Well, I don't see Mickey in no wizard outfit. Oh my God. Oh! And then there's just like a giant ogre. Like, yeah, basically the astral world and their world are combining. Like, the worlds have broken apart, and everything that created the world is now, yep, and there are dragons. There are dragons and everything. Yep. So that's where we're at. Oh my god, I'm done with these trolls. I'm tired of seeing them. That poor duck. Oh my god. Oh, and all the spirits and the little trolls and the skeletons rising. Oh my god, the dead rising up from the graves. It's apocalypse. Oh my god. Oh, there's like a headless knight. What? Amongst villages, cities, and nations and peoples for centuries, for millennia, stories have been told about them as if they really exist. People fear them, yearn for them, yet cannot catch or escape them. Thus have they gone on imagining this other half of the world, and now it lies before their eyes. Yeah, so it's just this merging of the two worlds together. I am wondering if that's going to affect Elfhelm any, if that's going to affect any of that, of them getting there. Mankind's desire, Fantasia. Basically, it's, as far as the desire goes, the idea of the other world, of the astral world, a fantasy world. It's basically merging it with their own. But I mean, it goes back to the idea of Jill and Rosine, where they wanted to escape the reality that was harsh and cruel and go somewhere else. And then Guts was like, that doesn't exist. And now it's like, yeah, here's this other world that you fantasized about, but guess what? It's just as scary as the world you're in, maybe even scarier, because these things could kill you now. Oh my god. Oh, what are all these bodies? These bodies tangled up. Oh. Oh my god. And the rats. Conrad. There he is with all the skeletons and rats. There he is. Was that other one supposed to be Slan? Oh, go back. Was that supposed to be Slan there? Yeah, Slan there at the beginning amongst all her bodies. And Conrad. Oh, what the fudge? What? Oh, there's him in the middle. One of the other god hand there. His stuff is the scariest so far. Like, Conrad, we've seen the rats and the plague, and we know Slan with all the bodies. We're going to see Void next, but oh my god, his looks so creepy. His look like the medieval drawings, like the way that one character's drawn with, like, it's self-hollowed out, and there's him, like, sitting in the middle being like, deet, 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 deet. It looks like a medieval drawing from, oh my god. This one's the creepiest so far. This one's by far the creepiest. But then we have Void. It's just a brain! It's just a brain! Slan is like 6, 6, 6, 6. And Conrad's like rats, 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 rats. And the other one's like weird, 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 weird. And then brain. And then brain for Void. Of course. Of course, Void is just his brain. It's just his mind. That's a scary enough place. We don't need to elaborate on it. So yeah. No worries. Just all this shit combining. We're all good. And then, yeah, Ganishka basically becomes the catalyst of the fissure. And it looks like this big tree of life, right? What? Oh my god. And that's the volume? I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, here's the thing. We have known for a long, long, long time coming. Miura spelled it out. Like, from the moment the eclipse happened, Miura had Skull Knight telling Guts, hey, just so you know, the worlds are going to combine. At some point, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I thought it was going to be a long time from now. I thought that Griffith was going to come in here, defeat Ganishka by becoming Femto, which he does, essentially. And then I thought that he was going to defeat Ganishka. That was going to be it. And then from there, he was going to try to lead the masses and manipulate them even more and become king. And then I figured once that happened, he was either going to, because he says he doesn't care about Guts and Casca, so he's either going to just leave them be and just do his thing, or he was going to be told by the God Hand that Guts and Casca were a threat and go and try to take them on himself. That's what I thought was going to be the case. Skull Knight is interesting here because Skull Knight seems, I want to go back to that. Skull Knight seems like he was attempting, because yeah, Griffith was, he saw the light from Griffith, and Griffith was attempting to destroy him, it seems. And that's, in that moment, that's when Skull Knight came through. What a badass double spread of Skull Knight showing up to Griffith. And then he went after, and he went to cut Griffith and aimed. I'm like, my thing is, Skull Knight, why'd you slice down? Why didn't you slice this way and chop off his head? So I don't know. I don't know if Skull Knight said he was the enemy of the Inhuman. So I don't think that Skull Knight would intentionally be trying to intentionally fuse the worlds. But I think he made a bad gesture. I think he made a bad decision to strike that way when I'm like, and try and cut Femto in half when I'm like, dude, you should have aimed for the head and went other way. Instead, you just did basically what Griffith wanted and helped to create the fissure even more that cuts through time and space. But the thing is, Griffith he collects it like a ribbon. And he's like, causality is brought to fruition with this sword stroke. Like, he basically was like, you did exactly what, and we don't get to see Skull Knight's reaction, except he just looks like a skull head. You've opened the door. And that's pretty much all it took to open up everything. So, I don't know how to feel about the prospect that Skull Knight, he was been collecting all these behelots to create this sword to go against the laws of causality, but then Griffith's like, actually, is Griffith trying to be like Aizen from Bleach? Is he trying to give Aizen a run for his money? Was Aizen trying to be like Femto? Where he's like, well, you actually thought you were going to kill me, but it actually was doing exactly what we were telling you were going to do. And I was like, oh, bitch. I don't know. At this point, I don't know if Miura intends for Griffith to be defeated. I don't know. And I don't know. And I don't want to cry. I feel so bad crying this volume, but it was so frustrating because I'm like, it was just like everything that we, the audience, have been told by Miura that these, apostles and demons represent that is bad. It's like Miura was suddenly like, but actually they could be friends with the humans and it's totally fine. And I'm like, but then what about all these bad things that happened that you said were horrible? Like, were they not? And I don't know. I'm going to have to keep reading. But this is so painful. And the worst part is I thought that I don't think Psylot's going to do any good at this point. I don't think he's going to say everybody's going to be like Sonya and believe in Griffith now and believe it's the best thing ever. Probably. Hope maybe you would think they wouldn't, but they're all a bunch of sheep, so probably. I don't know. This volume was not fun. It was beautiful and the artwork was gorgeous, but it was not fun. And I'm like, well, now the worlds have combined. So if we look at the hero's journey, we're at, the death of dreams, the black moment, the dark night of the soul and realization. I feel like we're getting to that part there, but I don't know. I would be very curious to know y'all's opinions of this volume. Now, obviously, you all have read further and you know where this story is going, and you probably know if this is going to have payoff later. And so I don't necessarily want to know about that. But when you were reading this for the first time, am I the only one that was so frustrated and struggling with it? I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to go dry my face. But next week we'll be looking at volume 35 and see what's happened on. Of course, they're not going to reveal to us what's happened with the characters and stuff that's going on now. Of course, they're not going to reveal that. So we got to wait till next volume to find it out. But anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and hopefully I'll hear your comments down below about volume 34. I am still trying to figure out how I feel about it. Bye.